Perhaps just as an end of this discussion, if I can explain to you how spirits hook into you, what they do is, here's your spirit body, right? So, yours, right? Bit chubby this one, sorry about that. And here's your soul, right, surrounding. Now in your soul are a whole group of emotions, some of which are harmonious with love and some are not. Now the ones that are not harmonious with love are seen as cracks and fissures in your body. Does that make sense? So what happens is a spirit who's malevolent sees only those things. So for instance, if you can't speak the truth to others because you're afraid of what they'll think of you, then this area of your body will have a problem in it that a spirit can see. Does that make sense? So what they will do then is they'll put you in situations where you speak lies because you can't speak the truth. And what they get out of that is see your condition go downhill. That's what they get out of it, the joy of destroying someone else. Right? Now, they also see where you have different belief systems that all have marks all over your body. In fact, anybody who can see the aura completely can describe these marks and problems with your body. But every single one of these problems is allowing a spirit to manipulate you in some way if they choose to. And what we're finding is that a lot of spirits are focusing their attention on people who know myself and Mary through these, seminars and that, and working on their Achilles heels, if you like, their emotional problems, to try and manipulate them into taking courses of actions which are quite damaging, both to others, but also their goal is for it to be damaging to myself and Mary. That's their underlying goal. And so what you can do certainly is just work on your emotions, work on the feelings inside of you where you compromise truth, work on the stuff where you compromise love. Don't compromise love anymore. Don't compromise truth anymore. Deal with the addictions you have. If there's an addiction for popularity, deal with that. If there's an addiction for being heard, deal with that. If there's an addiction for telling little fibs because people notice you, deal with that. Do you know what I mean? Let yourself deal with those emotions, because the more of those emotions you deal with, the less anyone is going to be able to influence you, spirits or otherwise. Some of you have deep fears about your personal safety. And that is a definitely big addiction that many spirits work on constantly. Because when you have an addiction to your own personal safety, you are willing often to compromise love and truth in interactions with others. Right? And the key is to understand that when I bring myself into harmony with God's laws and principles, I am more protected in that location than I can ever afford my own protection. So quite often we're making choices and decisions where we compromise truth and love, thinking that it's going to protect us more, but in reality what it finishes up doing is creating events that damage us more. The only time we're going to be fully protected really, in a complete sense, is when we deal with all the emotions that cause us to act out of harmony with truth and love. And when we're in that space, now we have the full protection, the full force of our celestial friends, the spirits above the eighth sphere, and the full force of God's protection can be given to us depending on free will, of course. That's the time when we have afforded the most protection in our lives. Right? Now that doesn't mean we might not die, it just means that in the end it will be okay. That's what it means. And a lot of us are addicted to a fear, to getting away from the fear of our own death. And you can see why, can't you? Most of the planet is addicted to getting away from the fear of their own death. Look at how we handle funerals even. There's proof of it right there. So if you can allow yourself to deal with these different emotional addictions, that is going to be the thing that helps the most. And we're not asking for your help for us. That's the thing that's going to help the planet the most. You know, everyone around you, every time you release an emotion, a causal emotion in you that's damaging the planet around you, automatically now everyone around you benefits from that healed emotion. That's a wonderful gift you can give to other people. Yeah. So, and to yourself, of course. Yeah. Can we use the mic? Is that it? Yep. I don't know. I can't hear. If you hand it over here, power has to be on and the mute off. Yep, use that one.
If we come across that sort of press that you were talking about, the negative stuff, can we respond to it like...
Why?
Okay, it's not necessary to do that.
No. All that's necessary is to feel your own emotions about the press. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, in 100 DVDs, by now you would know a bit of my character, even if you haven't spent time with me personally, right? So you know those things. You know what I've been teaching. So when you see something being said about us that isn't accurate or isn't true, just feel your feelings about it. That's what it's there for, to trigger your feelings. So feel your feelings about it. You know that little rage that comes up in you, oh, that's so unjust. Feel that feeling, and then go to the underlying feeling of what does that feel like underneath that? Oh, the grief of my own life, of how I've been treated unjustly. Feel that feeling, release that. But also don't be afraid to speak the truth, but don't go on a program of trying to do it. Do you know what I mean? Because that's driven by an unhealed emotion of wanting justice. And at the end, myself and Mary don't want justice. We just want to demonstrate love and give the gift of love. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah,
so
perfectly.
We don't need anybody to fight for us or any of those things. What we need is everyone to feel their stuff about what happens over the coming months. Does that make sense? That's the most,
thank you.
That's the most powerful thing. And honestly, one of the things you may or may not be aware of, one of the things we've become very aware of over the last couple of years, is how much disinformation there is, how much effort there is by spirits to provide disinformation, and therefore by a lot of people to provide disinformation to the planet. Like what they want to do is focus on different areas, even of your life they will eventually, focus on different areas of your life, and they'll say, oh, she did this in the past, and what's that got to do with now in the end? Like, even if you were, you know, a prostitute who murdered people in the past, what's that got to do with what you are now if you've healed all of that emotionally? Nothing. Does that make sense? And so what we need to come to terms with is that we need to realise that any attack that comes is just a law of attraction event to help us deal with some more emotion and get ourselves into a more loving space inside of ourselves. So these are great ways for us to deal with our fears, deal with our terror of attack, deal with our feelings of injustice, deal with all of these things. They're all fantastic ways to deal with all of those things. And if we allow ourselves to go through it, we'll come out of it closer to God, closer to each other emotionally. We will know that this isn't a cult, this is just a way of life. You know, at the end of the day, being with God is a way of life. And it's got nothing to do with me, it's got everything to do with God and you. And anything that happens along these lines is going to help you develop that relationship. And the key is to don't avoid confronting situations. Don't avoid them. You don't notice me avoiding those confronting situations. I stand up for them, stand up for truth when you have given the opportunity. But you don't need to go out on a vendetta telling, you know, trying to undo the lies. You know, if I spent all the time trying to undo the millions of lies that have been told about me during my 2,000 years of existence, like I would be spending the rest of my life doing it. And the truth, the important truth, would not be told. All we need to do is focus on that truth. So every time, you know how sometimes when people say things about you that are wrong, you never did. And you know how you feel. You know, you feel like unjust, you know, feel a bit angry towards the person. Well, all of those emotions are preventing you from being at one with God. Right? So allow yourself to experience them, but get underneath them and into the grief of that and release those things, because we need to release them if we want to be in this place of perfection of our love. And if we do that, what will happen is we'll come out of these things stronger, closer to God, more resilient within ourselves as a person, and with a lot more joy than we even currently have. That's how we'll come out, if we focus on dealing with the underlying emotions. But if we focus on the events and the situations and at that person, tell that person off and criticise that person and correct that person, we're going to be finding that our attention is being drawn away from our own self. Our attention is going to be drawn away from our own development. The more I can distract you as a spirit, if I'm a spirit, the more I can distract you from your own development, the happier I am. Right? So don't fall into the trap of getting distracted from your own relationship with God. Ever. No matter what pressure is happening around you. Focus on that first. Don't get distracted about your own relationship with your partner. You know, those are the two most important relationships you can develop your entire life. So don't let other things distract you from them, no matter how oppressive those other things may seem to be. Deal with the emotions of them, but stay focused. This is about you, God, and you becoming the person God created you to be.